That awkward moment when
it's quiet in class so your stomach decides to sound like a dying whale.
When someone you don't know goes in for the hug.
You realize the due date on a bill was yesterday.
Your friend says he wants to be more than friends, but you don't feel the same.
There's no bathroom in sight.
You realize your shirt is on inside out.
How about that awkward moment when you wake up a sleeping Jesus to tell him you are all going to die? I imagine the thought that ran through Jesus' mind at that moment was, "You're kidding me, right?" Hello world, my name is David Dorn and this is Preposterous, which is not your typical Bible study. In Matthew chapter 8, there is this amazing little segment about scared disciples, a monster storm, a sleeping Jesus, and 3 powerful words. It's one of those stories that if you were one of the disciples, you would be telling this story to your grandchildren and to their grandchildren. Matthew 8:23 through 27. When Jesus got into a boat, his disciples followed him. A huge storm arose over the lake, so that waves were sloshing over the boat. But Jesus was asleep. They came and woke him, saying, "Lord, rescue us! We're going to drown!" He said to them, "Why are you afraid, you people of weak faith?" Then he got up and gave orders to the winds and the lake, and there was a great calm. The people were amazed and said, "What kind of person is this? Even the winds and the lake obey him." So you're in a boat with God, and you think you're going to drown. What's wrong with this picture? Okay, let's recap. Jesus has just wrapped up healing lots of people and teaching to large crowds. He's exhausted. So he gathers his disciples in a boat and crosses over the Sea of Galilee. Now Jesus, being exhausted, goes to sleep, leaving the sailing of the boat to the professional fishermen who were among his disciples. At that time, a terrible storm came through the Sea of Galilee. Now, I'm going to give the disciples credit and say that they did the best that they could to sail the boat, but the storm was just too powerful. Now, have you ever been in a boat during a large storm? I've been on a cruise ship during a tropical storm, and that wasn't fun at all. And the boat the disciples were in were much smaller. You've got wind, you've got rain, you've got waves crashing over the side of the boat, and you've got God, sleeping, mind you, in the bottom of the boat. This is an interesting mixture of elements. What would you do? The disciples abandoned their faith, or did they? Jesus accuses them of having weak faith. Like seriously, if God is in your boat, you're not going to die. But Jesus didn't accuse them of having no faith. Where do you go when you get scared? Do you hide under your covers? Do you go find your mommy? Do you turn on every light in the house while you check every lock? You know who you are. The disciples notoriously said and did some pretty stupid things, although you and I would probably not do much better. But here, they did the right thing. When they feared they had lost hope, they turned to Jesus. Now, I'm curious how they chose who would go and wake up Jesus, because I can assure you it would not have been me. Now, I want you to take note of this. Even with God in their boat, the disciples still faced a terrifying storm. They didn't know if they would even survive. Just because you and I place our faith in Jesus, that doesn't stop terrible things from happening to us or prohibit us from going through tough times. In fact, sometimes God uses those tough times to see where our faith really lies and to help our faith grow. You want a solid faith in Jesus? Prepare to go through some tough times, because that is how your faith is strengthened. Like a muscle, it has to be used to grow. You know, I want big muscles, but am I prepared for the pain in the gym in order to get there? I'm still wrestling with that question. But if you want great faith in Jesus, are you prepared to go through hell with him? In the Old Testament, there was another guy in a boat sleeping through a terrible storm. His name was Jonah, and he was running from God. Now, Jonah was a prophet, and that means that he worked for God. He was God's mouthpiece to the people of Israel. Now, God called him to go to the city of Nineveh to tell the people there to repent of their sins and turn to God. The people of Nineveh were notorious for how bad they were. But Jonah said, "No, I'm not going." Because he knew God would forgive them if they repented, and he didn't want that. So Jonah, being the brilliant person he was, thought he could run away from God by getting in a boat and sailing the opposite direction of Nineveh. Have you ever tried running away from God? Now for Jonah, God sent a storm. The sailors on that boat thought they were all going to die. And they woke up a sleeping Jonah, who was at the bottom of the boat, and told him to pray to his God so that they all wouldn't die. But Jonah knew what was going on. And after it was revealed that it was Jonah's fault that this storm was upon them, he told them to throw him overboard, otherwise they would all die. Jonah, although angry with God, had to trust in God once more in order to survive. As soon as they threw Jonah overboard, the storm stopped. And God had other plans for Jonah. In life, you will have storms. You will have moments when you don't know how you will get through. You will have scares and fears and moments of terror. The question is, what will you do then? Hopefully, you will see that God is with you always. But even when you don't see him with you, call out to him. He is there. He's just waiting for you. One of my favorite lines in all the Bible is this, and it comes from the same story of Jesus in this storm, but from the book of Mark. Jesus stands up in the boat and says to the storm, "Peace, be still." And immediately the storm ended. The disciples were in awe. Who can this be that even the winds and the sea obey him? And then I imagine that Jesus went back to sleep. Do you have a story of God bringing peace in the middle of trouble in your life? If so, leave it in a comment or a video response. If you don't have a story, then what do you need God to bring peace to in your life right now? I promise you, he's listening. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed Preposterous, make sure you like this video and share it on Facebook with your friends. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube, and you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. As always, if you have any questions for me, you can tweet me at @IamPreposterous. And if you're a small group leader and would like to use Preposterous for your small group, you can sign up on our website at preposterousproject.com. God bless. Do you go find your mommy?